Free agency is here, W2Fer. And tonight we have the one, the only K Breezy back in studio, live with us on Worst to First as the initial day of NFL free agency 2023 is winding down. Not really. We know how this goes. It's 7:30 p.m. our time. The deals will still be flowing in well after the moonlight is right over our ball bags. But I got to go. And of course, I'll acknowledge, too, Matt's with me as usual. But K Breezy, how does it feel? It's been too long. And I think I speak for Matt here. We're juiced about this because we got a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Man, well, first off, I appreciate you guys for having me back. You know, it's always nice to run it back with the W2F squad. So I'm feeling good, man. You know, there's been a lot, you know, postseason that's happened. And obviously with free agency, you know, year as it is, there's some moves in the making. And I'm ready to see how it all pans out.
I like this time of year. I'm a little bit weird probably in that some years I prefer it to the draft. I don't know. I just think it's kind of fun to see what teams really think about these guys based on the amount of dough they're willing to put in their bank account. And today's the day when the big checks get signed for the most part, or theoretically signed. I guess Wednesday will be the real one. Matt, I'm going to take it to you right off here. We are going to go through and pick our favorite moves of day one. And so I'm giving you the honor. First pick, pluck it off the top of the mountain. What was the best signing, whatever? I mean, it didn't even have to be a signing. If maybe it was a trade. Best thing you saw a team do today as we sit here Monday night.
So I've probably got 3 or 4 on the top of my head right now. Some of them being defensive, which is kind of surprising to me, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to bore the listeners with defense. It's not what the league's about anymore, right? We're about offense. We're about points, baby. And this move may have came out of desperation. It may have came out of familiarity. I don't really know. Jimmy Garoppolo to the Las Vegas Raiders, man. Derek Carr gets replaced with Derek Carr that gets injured pretty much. So I'm very curious to see how that plans out. It's going to be entertaining and at the very least fun to talk about on this program.
So you like the move because of what it might provide for us, like in talking points?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know that it's going to move the needle for the Raiders that much in the long run. Probably not. But who knows? Maybe he'll offer a little bit of stability if he can stay on the field, you know. He's familiar with McDaniel, and heck, who knows, man? Maybe he's just what they need. And here's the thing. Vegas needs Jimmy. That's for dang sure. At the very least, can you imagine how well Jimmy's going to do on the Vegas Strip? My God.
We can because the three of us were there within the last year, just patrolling those streets.
And
ironically,
speaking of that, Bryan, before I cut you off there, running back this podcast with K Breezy, maybe we run it back. We're running back to Vegas with Jimmy. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
In due time. It's not if, it's when. As for Garoppolo, I'm not going to say it's my least favorite move of the day, but it's up there pretty damn high. And you kind of made the point for me. You replace Derek Carr with this guy. I know to a degree they have to bring somebody in. You don't want to get to the draft and basically be forced to pick whoever's there. And so I think they signed Garoppolo. They want him there, if nothing else, as insurance, a stopgap. But Josh McDaniels, he's coaching for his job this next year, 2 years. And how do you feel like Garoppolo gives you a better chance than Derek Carr to keep your damn job? He's hurt all the time. He's not any better of a player. I guess if you go by what David Carr says, maybe it's because Derek's a little more like he wants to have more of a say, and I could see Garoppolo kind of just falling back and falling in line. I could see Garoppolo basically saying, yeah, Josh, I'll do whatever you want. You basically turn me into your puppet and shove your hand up my ass mid-game. I get that, but still, I don't think it's going to lead to results on the field, and I'll be interested to see if Breezy feels any different. I don't even think you really do, Matt, but that's just where I'm at with it.
I mean, Here's the thing about Jimmy, right? You're right. He's going to fall in line. He doesn't want to fill his hands with, offensive theory and playbooks and things of that nature. Because, like you said, his hands are going to be full off the field.
Full of ass.
Yeah, Matt, and his hands will be full of ass. Yeah, that's a good call out, Brian. I'm going to piggyback off of what Matty said. I do like the Jimmy G signing. I mean, this is a proven starter in the league. We've seen him under Belichick. Now, seen him under Shanahan. Now we see him in Vegas replacing Derek Carr, which luckily the standard's not terribly high, so he doesn't have really crazy shoes to fill, right? I mean, he's coming in with a top 3 receiver to throw to in Devontae, and I think it's a fresh start for him. I think there was too much quarterback controversy in San Fran with Purdy and Trey. And I still think that controversy's there. I don't know if there is a set-in-stone starter. And I think that's a problem they're going to run into come, maybe even mid-season when, things go sideways with either Trey or Purdy, either or. I think they might run into some quarterback issues there. Another signing I secretly liked was Kelvin Beachum. A 2-year deal with the Cards. I did like that signing. I think it's a good guy in the locker room to have, especially a youngin like Kyler who's still trying to find his way and kind of, I guess kind of gained the respect from the locker room. It seems like just from reports that we're seeing, both inside and out is guys don't want to play with Kyler. And it goes to show that, maybe it's something personal that he's going to have to fix within himself first before he can get big name guys to, stop dipping out on him, like a D-Hop and so forth. So, I mean, these are guys that want to go and play with a top-tier quarterback, and if they don't see that in Kyler, then that's a big issue for a young and upcoming quarterback. So
that's a great call because not the only one it would be, but that's one of the signings that I totally missed today is Beachum, a vet. He has been around for quite some time, and what I think is surprising about it is it was him just a couple days ago out in the media. I don't remember who he told, but he basically said, like, Kyler's got some growing up to do. I mean, he called him out and point blank stated the facts, and now he's coming back into that locker room, which to me makes sense on the Cardinals side because they're basically saying, yeah, Kyler, get over it. Like, if this guy rubbed you the wrong way, he's your right tackle. He didn't say anything that wasn't true, and he's right back in the building, 10-plus year vet who can help keep things stable on the line. So that's that is a good one, and that's one that, I would say is on the positive end of the moves that have been made today. Nothing to add there, Matt.
No, good signing.
Yeah, no, you're good. Well, boys, I'll probably surprise you with this one. The price tag is a little much, but I kind of like one of Denver's signings today. They picked up a guard, Ben Powers from the Ravens, 4 years, $52 million. So that part of it, is a tough pill to swallow a little bit, but I can see why they did this. This is a very good pass blocking guard, and with Mini Russ back there, can't see over the middle of the field. You need guys who can keep that middle solid and keep. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to shut Chris Jones down, but keep him kind of limited a little more than maybe in the past. That's what Russell needs. They're married to Russell for at least the next 2 years. So what do you do to make it work? You bring in a guard like this who can help build a better wall. Maybe not a perfect wall. I like that move, and it kind of is a Sean Payton classic, I would say. That's something that he would have done in New Orleans, so you're already seeing his fingerprints on Denver and their whole operation.
Yeah, no, for sure. Speaking of the Denver Broncos, what do you think about Sean Payton putting Russ's tail to the fire, bringing in Jarrett Stidham, stealing from the Raiders, bringing them back up again? Maybe it's going to put some pressure on him, and he's going to elevate his game. What do you think?
Equally inadequate scrub backup, just as it is with the starter. And it's one of the worst, maybe the worst quarterback situation. Dollar for dollar, that's the worst quarterback room in the league.
I didn't see how much they gave him specifically, but I don't.
$5 million a year.
Really? Wow.
Pretty typical for a backup.
But for a potential starter, that's a steal. Not going to say he's a good starter, but, who knows? They may give up on Russ this season.
You're paying the real starter $45.
They can't change that now. They're stuck in that contract, Bryan. So the only thing they can do right now is try and right the ship with another guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, Matty, Jared Stidham might just let Russ cook. So,
Kayhon, he's killing it.
Okay, we talked about some of the good moves. There's actually a lot more than that, I would say, and maybe they'll come up inadvertently as we go. But time to get to the fun part. Time to talk about the worst signings. And this is how free agency goes. Every year, there's more bad than good. And that's just the markets, right? You overpay guys a lot, typically. And this particular season, there just aren't a whole lot of good options out there. The free agency class is about as weak as I can ever remember. So it shouldn't be hard to come up with picks here. Hey, Breezy, Farah, what was the worst signing you saw so far today?
I hate to say a signing is worse, like a bad signing, because you got to think, no signing is bad, but, did you overpay for a guy? I think that's when you start getting into the nitty gritty details. Tremaine Edmonds, $72 million contract, could we say, possibly a stretch, overpaid? I think that's TBD. I also would like to piggyback off that. I don't really know what the Bears are trying to do necessarily. I'm kind of interested in this saga overall. I don't know if we're all in on Justin Fields or what are we exactly doing or what we're seeing that, maybe what I'm saying that others, are. I think Fields is a proven starter in the league, but I don't know as far as, rallying up the troops and getting a squad together for him to carry. I don't know. I think it's TBD on that. But that was a signing that I was kind of on the edge with for sure. So
I'm with you. Edmonds, for me, the only way that deal turns out to be good or worth it is if he is like the leader of the defense who, vocally, play calling, like all that stuff. But I don't think his on the field play is something that's going to validate the price. But maybe Poles is just looking at that saying, man, we need a voice in the room coming from a respected organization, somebody who can come in and lead the bunch on defense, because their defense is cheeks and it's going to be hard to turn that around. But still yet, I personally am looking at it like, I kind of would have rather had saw them bring in, a Javon Hargrave. Like, Javon Hargrave got paid up by San Fran, but he plays a different position, and I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. But like I said, if you want Edmonds to work out, if you're pining for that move, I think you got to bring up the leadership part before anything, because I think that's about the only shot they got to get real ROI.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was surprising to see what's going on with Buffalo. I know they got to figure out some things money-wise, but, man, they're going to be reshaping that defense totally. That's what I've taken away from all this, really.
The DC's out, too. I mean, he's taking the year off, so it's going to look a lot different. Very, very different, and we'll get into it more later. The possibilities in that division, like, would it shock anybody? I don't want to take us off topic, but it's just, would it shock anybody if Buffalo slides out of that first place spot? Miami's all in, every last chip in the middle of the table. And I look for them to possibly make a run at Poyer and take him from Buffalo. So, and if that happens, good God, they're secondary. Okay, Matt, we'll go to you now.
So the thing about this one I'm going to bring up, I don't think it's inherently a bad signing per se. I just wonder what it's going to mean for the team overall for the whole season. Miami, you just spoke about them. Mike White, they bring in Mike White, right? I like Mike White, solid backup. But what do you think this means for the Dolphins, right? Like, are they going to ride it out with Tua? Because then, like we were talking pre-show, Tua goes out. Mike White, he's going to be your guy. Do you think that's going to be the guy that gets it done for you? You know what I mean? You said they're an all-in team. Does this impact them? Like, are they going to go out and still get Tom Brady, make a trade for Lamar once draft day hits? I don't know. This kind of leaves them in a little bit of a limbo situation, if you ask me.
I don't think I get where you're coming from, and to me, the move does signal that they feel their QB room is set, which is disappointing. But I also think that the Jalen Ramsey move also kind of let you know, because they just don't have the cap to be, okay, we're going to go after Lamar Jackson. They don't have it. It's gone. Piggy banks are basically empty at this point. And, of course, you can always do some things here or there. But I don't know, honestly. I mean, they already restructured Hill. Like, I don't know how much more money they can play with this year. And I don't know that they really need to. They're so stacked in the right places. Mostly. Offensive line could probably use some work. So it's all on Tua now. All about him. Tua has a hell of a battle ahead of them for the next 10 to 11 months. And I don't know, but I kind of like where they're at. I respect that they are going for the throat, because the talent they have, these guys are in their prime right now, but they're not going to be forever. And so we'll see where it is, Mike White or Tua. Who knows? Maybe Mike White makes a run.
Perhaps. I don't know. I do like the roster, like you meant, but I don't know that they're going to, quite get it done with those guys.
Barra, if you want to add anything, you can. If not, we'll roll. Up to you.
No, I'm all in. I'm good. I like the Mike White signing, Maddie, like you said. I mean, I just think there is the speculation that, we're not sure if Tua can give us a whole season, I mean, he's constantly concussed, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better. So until they can get his head right, I don't think he should be under center.
100.
It's the dolphin in the room. And it's going to be there for a long time. Okay, I am staying with the same team for my worst move that I had earlier. Is Denver with Mike McGlinchey getting I believe it was 5 years, $87 million, something like that. I don't know. I've watched Mike McGlinchey play in a lot of big games. I've never been impressed. I feel like he gets worked in pass pro every week. Doesn't matter who he's facing. So if you ask Sean Payton, he's going to tell you, well, we want to run the football. We want to lead that way because Russ. And that's why they bring a guy like Mike McGlinchey in, because he's a good run blocker. He will help them in that manner. But what happens when you're facing the Chiefs or the Chargers, any of the other AFC teams that are offensively good, and you're down 10 late in the game? He's going to have to pass block. And you're paying him a lot of money to not do it very damn well at all. I would say he's average at best in that department. So it's weird. I like the other signing. I do. This one, not so much.
That's the danger of it, right? Giving away big contracts to mid-level players, that can put your team in a real tough spot really quick. And you know what? No wonder this team has trouble with, finding dollars, right? Because, I mean, they're just spending heavy, like I said, on mid-level guys.
Bryan and Matt, kind of like I piggied on earlier, another signing that kind of made me itch my head a bit was the Sam Darnold signing, the 1 year to San Fran. It makes you wonder, so you got rid of Jimmy just to kind of put yourself in the same bubble again for the upcoming season, not comparing Sam and Jimmy because there's obviously levels to this, but is there, is there not a high level of confidence in Trey or Purdy at this point that you're thinking Darnold's going to be the starter come week one? It's gonna be interesting to see how the quarterback room is over in San Fran. So
it's a fun possibility, if for no other reason. There's all this talk about how all quarterbacks can succeed in that Shanahan offense. Well, we might find out. Because if Sam Darnold is the guy at any point, and he looks way better than he ever has, that's going to be something. And I would love to find out, quite frankly. And really, with those weapons they have, it probably wouldn't be that hard. Coaching not even in the picture. So, but we talked about that. A couple weeks ago, I think I threw out Baker Mayfield. They went with Darnold. Same draft class, same guys picked in the top 5 who were both busts. So Shanahan clearly thinks that there's talent to tap into there. Maybe we find out, maybe we don't.
Yeah, I actually don't halfway hate it. The reason why I say that is because, like Bryan mentioned, we do talk about them being a plug-and-play offense. Trey Lance, I personally think that they've written him off. They just don't want to say it publicly. Brock Purdy, we don't know if he's going to be healthy enough, right? So, bring in Sam Darnold. He's a plug-and-play guy. Maybe he gets the job done for you, at least for a little while.
Real quick, boys, before we move off of the free agency stuff, I mean, is there any moves just in your mind that we haven't talked about that definitely need to be discussed? I can probably think of one or two, but I'll let, if you have one, take the floor now or forever hold your peace.
Nah, I got one in my head, Bryan, and this is going to kind of lead us into our discussion later. But the Kayhon Nixon signing for Green Bay, I think that was a very big signing. Of course, I've got a little bias to that statement, but the high level of praise 12 has had for him this previous season, and re-signing a guy like that, I think shows that he was right. I mean, Kayhon was so big in our return game this year, and all the struggles we've had throughout the years and special teams. So, just signing a guy like that secretly, Aaron just loves being around and having in the locker room. Although the reports are saying that Green Bay is done with 12 and so forth, but I think a signing like that kind of shows that, okay, you like him, we got him back, we kind of want you back too, so let's get this thing rolling. So
let's go there. You had a perfect segue with that signing, and I know you just wrapped up a little bit of a piece, but I'm going to give it right back to you because this is kind of your chance here to say, okay, maybe this is what you want to see your squad do. And then also on the other end, this is what you see them doing. And maybe those things are the same. I'm not sure. But we brought you on especially because this perspective is unique. Diehard Packers fan going through at least in your case, this is new. But the weird thing is for older Packers fans, this is deja vu. I mean, to the team, this is deja vu. So without further ado, I'll send it back to you, Farrah.
Oh man, where do I start? Yeah, so first off, it's been a crazy roller coaster the last, not only this year, but the last couple seasons with Aaron, right? You've got a 4-time MVP that, some might say has held an organization hostage on whether or not he's going to return playing for them or if he'd like to play elsewhere and so forth, And I kind of understand the tactic to it. You've got a special personality trait in a guy like Aaron. I mean, anybody who's kind of even watched any sort of Pat McAfee pod on him on the Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays and so forth, or the Aubrey Graham pods, anything you could have possibly watched, you can tell he's just a different guy. I think that, we kind of like to say all good things must come to an end. We saw it with Peyton. We saw it with Tom. You would think though, just to kind of even go back a little bit, deep down, I mean, I'm assuming Tommy wanted to retire a Patriot, but he knew that the only way to kind of save that legacy is to leave Bill and leave anything in New England and go win elsewhere. And I think the situation, of course, is a little different for Aaron. I mean, he's took us to 5 NFC championship games, and yes, we fell short out of those 5. And, we've been a constant playoff contender. But then, you sit back and you think about it, okay, so you win, let's just say 11, 12 games consistently over a course of, 5 to 10 years. But what has that got you, right? That hasn't got you any merchandise. So now you begin to think, okay, well, what's next? You've got a first ballot Hall of Famer, a guy that's going to have his jersey retired one day, at Lambeau Field and so forth. And you get to thinking, okay, well, we just drafted, you draft J Love, and you think, okay, so you've got a guy like that in Jordan after year 4, year 5. Do you still bench a guy like that, or how are you ever going to know what his potential really is? What's his ceiling, right? You even get a guy like a Darnold or a Geno Smith. Eventually, you see their ceiling because they get that starting job. So until Jordan doesn't get 14, 15 plus games under his belt, we're never going to really know what his what his potential is. So, there's been inconsistency in the playoffs for Green Bay as a whole, right? Both in the divisional round and wild cards and NFC championship games, right? It's been consistent, just inconsistencies all around. Great regular seasons, and then just falling short. And after how many years of consistently doing that do you say enough's enough, right? So I think the real question is going to be, if Aaron was, supposedly to leave, right? And you throw in J-Love, let's just say you win 9 to 10 games with J-Love consistently, right? I mean, now it's like, but you're still getting booted come playoff time, divisional round, championship round, right? So do you start looking at J-Love now saying, no, that's not the guy who made a mistake? Or do you start looking at Coach LaFleur and saying, well, what about Coach LaFleur? I mean, can we look at some of the play calling, right? And can we kind of dig into detail there instead of pointing fingers at Aaron? Because every time Green Bay news comes up, is the first thing is it's 12, right? 12 did this, 12 did that, 12's going in the dark, 12 doesn't know what he wants to do. Is he all in? Is he all out, right? I might argue and say that he's earned that. I mean, he's earned that. Do I want to come back or not? You're a 4-time NFL MVP. You can do whatever you want. If you want to take time at age 39, 38 to decide on your future, and by all means do it. I would go as far as saying Tom, Breeze, Peyton would all get the same treatment as well. Just because the personality is a little different, you don't see it in the media nearly as much or maybe as harsh, right? Because they don't go sit in the dark for 3-4 days at a time, right? There's just I am biased. I appreciate Aaron for all he's done for me as a Packers fan. I mean, yes, there's only been one Super Bowl and it's got a lot of dust on it, but I think at the end of the day, all good things come to an end, and if it is the Jordan Love era, I guess bring it on. But we're never going to know, like I said, his potential until post Aaron, whether that's with or without him in the next 2 to 3 seasons, most likely. So.
Yeah, interesting. Speaking to that, you mentioned Aaron being very into the media, talking and having that attention on him. Do we think maybe that's all this is? The Jets and the Packers, they both want to make this deal, but maybe Aaron's not actually interested at all, and he's just wanting that spotlight on him per usual. Do you think maybe that's a possibility what's happening here, or do you think he is actually entertaining it because maybe that inner egotism, which no fault to him for that, doesn't want to sit the bench?
Well, I think it's a little bit of everything, Matt. That's a good point. I think he likes the attention. I think he likes when his name is being brought up and nobody knows exactly if there's any sort of backed up evidence to it, right? Because nobody's in his inner circle, as he would say, So yeah. I think he enjoys it. My only thing is, if he was all in on being the Jets quarterback, I think we would have already heard that by now. I think deep down he wants to retire a Packer. I think he has too much love for Green Bay. And I think deep down, not only as fans, but as a player, he knows that the AFC is just tough, man. It don't matter if it's north, south, east, or west. It's tough out there, and you've got a bunch of young guns that are real hungry. And an old head like Aaron, if he's got to just get through Brock Purdy or Sam Darnold, I mean, I feel like he would take that at this point. So, yeah. So I think it's a little bit of everything, definitely. So,
well, what you said there about the AFC and Aaron, Matt, you pointed out maybe it's him just kind of peddling these teams along. I think that the Packers, whether they meant to or not, like whether they wanted to or not, they have really backed him into a corner that he does not want to be in. And maybe that's retaliation for the last couple years when Aaron, kind of left them up in the air a little bit, like, am I going to play? Do I want to be traded? He had all the power because, he had those MVP seasons. There was no way to move on from him. And then this year, it's almost like they have put him in a spot where he's not – I don't feel like he likes any outcome. The one thing he would love to do right now is probably play for the Packers, but they are telling him, it seems like, no. It seems like they're telling him, we are playing Jordan Love no matter what, and you can either retire or go to this team, the Jets. Like, that's why I think it's taking so long. I don't know why else drag it out? Why else, kind of sabotage the Jets? If that's the team you're going to, what are you waiting for, right? You're kind of making their free agency plan a little messy. And then also, like you pointed out, the history, the playoffs and all that. I think I blame Brady and Belichick more than anybody, because if NFL fans could just set them aside, and I know that that's not how it works, but if you just set them aside and look at everybody else, you realize that the NFL playoffs are brutal. You can be the greatest team. Patriots were at one point, went 17-0 and lost in the Super Bowl. To win every week in the playoffs is very difficult. You can have a hell of a wild card game, get bounced the next week. You can have a hell of a first two games, get bounced in the conference title. It's not easy, and history bears that out, except for when those two were together in New England and everything that came with it. Like, they're just such a unicorn, really, in terms of NFL history. So that's kind of where I think history is harsh on the Packers of the last 15 years, whatever it's been. Like, just to make the playoffs every year is a hell of an accomplishment. But they lose, they get discredited because he played in the same era as Brady and Belichick.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting point. That actually kind of reminds me, Kayhon, this is a hard question, but that's why the listeners come to us, man. What would be harder, in your opinion? Having to say goodbye to Aaron Rodgers, having that faithful number one quarterback that you love your whole life. I can only imagine, being a Chiefs fan these days, what this would be like. Or having this guy, first ballot Hall of Famer, and only coming away with one ring. I know Bryan said it's tough for a lot of teams, but it's got to feel a little bit disappointing, I'm sure, with a guy with that talent.
And that's such a tough question, Matt. It's tough to say. I mean, it's so hard to just, cut the tie off with Aaron, right? Because you first start watching, you start, semi-remembering these games, and all you see is 12 back there. It's all 12, 12, 12. So it's all so I can't picture anybody but Aaron. I was too young to remember Favre. So Favre was, I remember Aaron, after that Super Bowl, after we beat the Steelers in the Super Bowl, and that was that. That's what I remember. It's tough, man. I mean, look, one Super Bowl, it's tough. I don't know, Maddie. That's a tough question.
I hit you heavy with that one.
I think the best thing would be is all good things must come to an end. And I mean, if it's not working out now, I mean, what makes you think it's going to work out in the next year or two? I mean, you know what I mean? I think it's just one of those things where I think it's time for Packer fans as a whole to just brace the moving on and appreciate what you had, but it's not working. Something's got to give at some point, whether you like it or not. So, if Jordan Love's the answer, I mean, that'd be great, but we won't know that until we get him under center and get him through a full season. So,
great points. Excellent points, actually.
Touch on that because I didn't mention looking ahead. It does feel like Green Bay is ready to move forward with Love, figure out what they got. You spent the pick on him, and this is really the last year you have to get information. I think this is going to go well, and I know that is he going to be as good as Aaron's been? No, but does he have to be? Is that everything? Not really sure. I mean, you've seen a lot of teams over the years go to the Super Bowl and they didn't have the best quarterback in the league, or even some, not even the top 5. But if they could, build that roster up around him, continue to build it. I mean, it's already built pretty well. He's already got good young receivers and a stable line. I don't know. I'm excited to see what that looks like. And I think it could be a situation where they come out of it feeling good about the decision. And if Rodgers decides to play with the Jets, is it impossible that he becomes the next line, the next person in a line of elite all-time QBs who go to another organization and win it all? Like we saw Brady do it. We saw Manning do it. and Manning kind of got carried to his Super Bowl. You need help. You can't do it on your own. And the Jets, they do have a lot of young pieces. Defense especially, it's impressive. So we'll see, man. I think it's going in the right direction, but it ain't going to be easy no matter what, emotionally.
Yeah, Bryan, and that's a good point. Emotionally, it's going to be a roller coaster. But just off a personal experience, I remember going to Arrowhead expecting a Mahomes versus Rodgers game, and instead, COVID time, and you throw J Love in first star of the year, right? He's a nervous wreck out there. He's not comfy. He's in the pocket. He's nervous. He doesn't have that repertoire with Devontae at the time, and you can just tell he just wasn't ready, right? And then fast forward that about a season or so later, and A-Rod goes down the Philly game Sunday nighter, and J Love comes in, and all of a sudden he's just like the comfiest guy in the pocket. He's got the playbook down. He knows where his receivers are going. He knows he's got the route tree down. And he looks so much more comfortable, and it gave me a little hope at that time. And in the back of my head, I said, we don't know what's going to happen with Aaron after this year and next year. He's probably going to hang it up, right? I was just assuming he was going to retire. So I said, if this is what we've got to look forward to, I said, with these young receivers in Dobbs and Watson, on the come up, and a good tight end and Rob Tonyan, I like this team, man. I like it. I like what we got in the backfield with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. And I think this defense is young and hungry with Jair and the crew. So I think with or without Aaron, I think there's still some level of success there. And I say that because the NFC is so weak. And I can kind of say that positively, that there's not much fear in the NFC. So
let's put it this way. And Matt, I'll let you say your next piece right after I get this out, but them saying things, Mark Murphy was doing an interview and he said, basically, we want Aaron and us to part ways, right? They would not say this way. They would not feel this way if they thought Jordan Love was not any good, because you would not hand over the keys to your offense to a quarterback who you've been watching in practice for 3 years if you just thought he doesn't have it. Like, there's something about him that they at least think needs to get a true run. And you talked about the game in Kansas City, the Philadelphia game. Sometimes getting knocked on your ass like that, maybe that's the best thing that ever happened to him, because it had to have been a wake-up call. Like, if I ever want to be somebody in this league, I got a long ways to go. He had to have changed things. I don't know what. But he had to have, otherwise he doesn't care, and I don't think that's what's going on. So all these things I'm saying, I'm buying Green Bay's stock, whether it's Rodgers or Love, but honestly, especially Love, because that's when everybody's going to give up on him, and it would be, I think, a mistake, personally.
No, I think Kayhon made a great point earlier. I think regardless of how you feel about it, as much love as you have for the guy, I think it's time. It's time to move on. It's time to start fresh, turn the page, see what happens, man. We can't keep trying the same thing over and over again and not getting to the top of the mountain.
Well, boys, I don't know that there's much more we can add until things become more real, until we get the news. And I just know with our luck it's going to happen here in an hour after we get off. But free agency is far from done. There's going to be a lot more pieces of the puzzle put together and pulled apart. There's going to be cuts. That's part of this deal too. And until then, we'll keep following along, and we'll be back. Farrah will be back sooner than later, as long as he wants to. And make sure you're following us along on all social platforms at Worst to First NFL. We thank you for your time. Enjoy March Madness, but in this case, the madness is free agency, and basketball it's there.
Mid sport.
All right, see ya.
Peace.